You ever heard someone say, I'm just bad with money? Or maybe you've said it yourself. But what if you're not actually bad with money at all?
What if you've been showing up to the financial playing field, but you've been handed and handling the wrong ball? You've been playing by the wrong rules, and maybe you're even playing the wrong sport entirely.
Yeah. So today, in this episode, we're going to pull back the curtain on the real reason that so many people feel stuck with money. And trust me, it's not just because of laziness, irresponsibleness, or that person's just doomed or has bad luck.
We're talking about the actual rules for the money game, the ones nobody bothered to teach you until now. Welcome back to the Banking Bros podcast. Here at the Cash Compound, we're teaching you code-cracking cash flow, and we want to help guarantee lifetime income for you. And there are rules to the money game that maybe you did not grow up with. We've mentioned that so many times, so go back through our podcasts and listen to all of the things that you thought were true that just might not be so.
Yeah, so in today's episode, we're going to walk through this kind of idea that you're not actually bad with money, that maybe you're just playing the wrong game, right? Maybe you've been set up as opposed to someone being bad with money. I actually mentioned that just yesterday. I was chatting with my wife. We were talking about completely different topic, not finances, but there was a question posed, and I felt like I got set up. You ever set someone up with the question? Like,
sure, you lead the witness.
Yeah, you lead them, right? And I felt like there's no way I can answer this appropriately. You're setting me up for failure here.
Okay.
And that's a little bit of what's going on in this episode today. So we'll walk you through how the setup happened, and then because of the setup, what's now happening over here in the financial space, the game that people are actually playing, and why you might need to rethink your thinking, go back to the beginning, and play a completely different game.
So the big idea is you have been set up and you've been taught through traditional schooling over the course of the last 100 years or so how to be a good worker, not a wealth builder, not somebody who has to think about managing money, but you think about managing your time and your effort. If you think about managing your money, things are going to be working out a lot different for you. And what was interesting to me, the first time I really felt that I was set up to be a good worker was my last year in college. So I have a mass communication degree. In that last year of college, while I worked for an entrepreneur, I've mentioned this before, I stole Rich Dad, Poor Dad off of his bookshelf. He was moving from one house to another. I was helping him build it. He had an elevator in his new house. And I realized while reading that book, talking about Robert Kiyosaki and his buddy being in Hawaii, working at the grocery store, which I had also worked at the grocery store. I'd probably stopped at that point for about 2 years. That I know how to be a good worker.
Yeah.
But wealth building is different. Second time where I really felt that I got something put in me that I just felt as though I've had the wrong mentors up until this point was during a network marketing lecture meeting. Okay. So not like a sales meeting, but like one of the leaders, the top guys who's making millions of dollars was giving like a keynote. So lecture sometimes sounds negative, but he's giving a keynote address and he's talking about we live in the best country in the history of the world during the best time. Obviously, if you go back looking like me, 30 to 50 plus years, things are not so good for people of color, women, things like that. So he was reminding us that we have the most opportunities of all time, and none of us are getting to the place as a general society where we realize the point at which, okay, I don't have to work anymore. All the money, all the tools, all the things are working for me. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, that's where it really hit me. And during a keynote, and I was like, yeah, that's not how I look at it. He said, what's the fastest way we can get to the place where you don't have to do anything anymore? And then you just do things you like and you want. And that was huge for me. So number one, you have been taught to be a good worker. Originally, one of the reasons that school even started and existed was to prepare people to get to the industrial factory faster, and to help them understand just enough reading and writing and arithmetic to fill out ballots.
So they could vote.
Yeah, so that you could vote. I mean, because before that, we're an agrarian society. If people are living off the land, you don't need to understand computers and math. You just need to be able to count crops.
Right.
You need to be able to, buy and sell and trade at the market, but that's it. Okay, so number two, Schools aren't teaching you financial literacy at all.
At all.
At all, right?
Need to.
I've said it a million times. Well, what do you remember, Jonah, about school,
Not
financial?
much. I was not paying attention. No, I mean,
Did you take any type of
financial literacy?
okay, I took a class called consumer
Math or something?
Yes, consumer math. And consumer math by far was the closest reality.
No.
And I wasn't paying attention.
No, in high school, definitely nothing. In college, I have a business administration degree, so I took like accounting and stuff like that,
Right.
which is
Okay.
helpful to understand a little bit about the way that money is flowing and working in the world, especially when you can, of course, in the class, right, you look at really successful businesses or business models, and you start to go through those scenarios, and it starts to kind of show you what people are doing and how they work and different ways to, do accounting or different ways to actually focus on your money. So that's helpful. But when it comes to like real world, when we talk about taxes, when we talk about bookkeeping, when we talk, stuff, real world budgeting, credit card debt, was there a class on the credit score and how if you do mess that up, you will not be making purchases as an adult, was there a class on that? No. And so that's really what I mean. I mentioned this, maybe I said it to you or maybe I put it on a podcast episode, but I was mentioning, I think there should be different tracks in high school, different tracks. If you're interested in learning about finance, if that's, maybe like general stuff, you're going to be an adult in the actual real world. I think there's some other kind of core classes that you need to take.
What are those core classes?
Well, I definitely think there needs to be one on general finance, which is some of the things I just mentioned: budgeting, taxes, credit and credit scores,
which could be labeled as consumer math. Although I do not remember anything about budgeting per se. Balancing the checkbook would have been closest. Okay, and then I do not remember anything on taxes.
Right.
Not a thing on taxes. But there was also, I think there was stuff that had to do with maybe it was in the idea of, getting your checkbook balanced is where like, here's how much money you'd have left if you made $1,000 this month and you bought all these things. I mean, I think that's all it was, which is literally consumer subtraction.
Yeah,
like that's what it was.
Yep.
Okay, so what else? Wood shop, gym.
Well, I think there could be like
gym.
to be honest, what do I want to say? To trade school style of track.
Okay, so it could be like wood shop class or home ec.
Yeah, I mean, if your dad's a plumber or a carpenter, go down that
trade
path.
school,
You learn how to.
Now, if your dad's a plumber, you don't need to go. You just need to go hang out with dad.
But I'm saying there's lots of things that could be very helpful. If you want to live in a house one day, you probably should know one or two things about electricity. Turn off the breaker before you put the dryer.
Let's not get into the deets.
You should teach that stuff at the high school level. That's what I'm saying. So like a trade style track,
right? Okay.
Plumbing and electricity and little things like that. I think there could easily be like a STEM. You know how we have STEM schools, but like a science, technology style track.
Okay.
So again, I personally would say that every student at a high school does not need to know the elements of the periodic table. Here's what I mean. You need to know there's a periodic table. You need to know there are elements on it, but no need to know that AU is actually gold. Like, not unless you're going down that track. I don't need that information in my day-to-day life at all. Right. So if you want to go down that track, I think I do want to be a scientist, work for this company. Does that make sense? Then go down that track.
Right.
I'm not saying the other kids don't know their periodic table exists. I think there needs to be some base level, but like the deep details, no. Why am I getting tested on which element is upper to the left?
Not in high school. Once again, I mean, college is a whole nother level.
College is a whole nother level because you pick tracks in college. Do you not?
Pick a track.
You pick majors, then you go down the track. I think we need to incorporate that same style.
Now, lots of schools are implementing this a little bit better. They're kind of going back to it because there was basically a generation, probably 2 generations, where we went away from those things.
Yep.
Because our mother took home ec. Right?
Okay.
Wood shop class existed. Those things were there. Now, one that I think has to be in the game, before we get back to your financial conversation, is going to be health and nutrition. Sure. You need some sort of physical education, but I don't just mean we're playing dodgeball. I mean physical education includes nutrition. It includes calisthenics or stretching, I think. and it's going to include sweating. I mean, you can play basketball if you want, but I think that food needs to be in the game.
So I love it. And again, I'm saying generally everyone who goes to the high school should have at least a base level of understanding, especially when it comes to something like nutrition, food, exercise.
Right.
And then if you're like, oh, I'm really interested in that. If all year you're getting, B's and C's, and then you do that one and you're getting A's and your interest is piqued, then maybe we've got a track where you're going to be a little bit more focused there, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people know, I mean, I was chatting with a couple people, and even in one of our coaches, right, who found the love of his life, wife, and now mother of his children, been together a long, long time, in 7th grade.
Okay.
So you can find that person in 7th grade, but can't realize, you know what, I think I like science a little bit more than home ec, and choose a track. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm just like, what are we doing? Anyway, the reason that we're bringing that up in this episode is because the school system that we have currently, we think, is designed, like Jeremiah said, to make you a good worker, not a wealth builder, not someone who's interested in, personal finance, none of that stuff. It's really just they want you to, they barely teach you any sort of financial strategy, because they really want you kind of in the workforce, dependent on the paycheck, working for someone. That's how they get the tax dollars, right? The W-2 employees pay the tax dollars. That's how you can get people to fund or work in the factories, work for the big corporations, that sort of thing. And I think we're just being conditioned really, really early on to live in this low interest, low financial literacy kind of environment. And it's really hard for the average person to get out of that and decide, you know what, I want something different. I need to forget a lot of what was taught to me, or put it to the side, a lot of what was taught to me previously, so I can change direction almost. You're doing a 180 in order to actually be able to create financial freedom. Right.
There you go.
And that's really what's going on.
That's the hot take of today. The wrong game most people play and the traditional money model are 3 things. It's get a good job, put a chunk of your paycheck into savings accounts or retirement funds. We'll talk about savings here in a second. And number 3, play the stock market with your extra dollars or your retirement accounts, or even what you should have been saving, and hope for the best over the course of the long haul. So the problems with this model, ladies and gentlemen, is savings has changed in the last 40 years, big time. And now we live in an environment where the savings rates on bank accounts, commercial, ubiquitous, every corner savings accounts, is literally 0.01%.
Yep. There's a saying, we're actually going to shoot a YouTube video about this. I'm going to talk to these guys right here a little closer. There's a saying, you've heard it, a dollar saved or a penny saved is a penny earned. And I personally think a false statement. Today's day and age, because of the way that inflation is rising. A penny saved is not a penny earned. It's not close anymore. It used to maybe be true back when was that a Ben Franklin?
There we go.
Quote, right?
Poor Richard.
That's a long time ago. True when he said it, not true anymore. And I think that is something that is that goes without saying. Like there are important kind of fundamental things that we still think to be true that we have moved on from that. Right now, inflation outpaces your bank account. It outpaces any interest you're earning. I mean, you've got to put this money in really special places to outpace inflation currently.
And lots of people know that. And if you're listening to our podcast, that might be you. But remember to share this episode with a friend or a family member who's not really understanding, and their dollars are locked away in places like that. The other reason that we don't want to have our dollars in those places is because of the lack of liquidity. Depending on where you put it, we're mostly now talking about things for the long haul, like retirement accounts and qualified plans, that your numbers that are in there, good or bad, are not liquid. And so you're not able to leverage, which we'll get to in just one second. And leverage is going to be very important. You have to play that game. And I'm telling you right now, at 21 years old and probably through most of my 20-something years, I couldn't have told you what leverage was.
Sure.
And I definitely needed to utilize it rather than just look at me contributing my work dollars to a savings account.
Yep. I can definitely get on board with that one. I probably could have told you leverage referring to like a lever. I could have explained that well. But if someone said financial leverage, I
wouldn't have known. And I would have been able to maybe put two and two together, because once again, I went to school and Archimedes said, give me the lever long enough, I'll lift the world, right? We hope. Was it Archimedes?
I don't know, but you close enough.
But see, that I knew more about that than I would have known about financial tools.
Right.
And I would have only understood the number one thing I would have been able to talk about in terms of savings accounts with potential growth would have been a CD. That's all I would have known, because it was a bank product, and that's all I would have known as well.
Yeah.
Something that I could actually physically go walk past on my way to Hardee's or the grocery store where I worked.
I think that this lack of liquidity, this second thing that we're bringing up, is really, really big. It's a really huge thing to get your mind around, because so many people put their money into the accounts where it's their money. They worked for it. Like today, you're working. Friday, you get your paycheck, or next Friday. Some of the paycheck you have earned. They don't pay you if you don't work.
Right.
You've earned it, and then you're choosing to put it in a place in an account where literally, if you need to come back to it next week, not even next week, next year, 10 years from now, before you're of age, they'll literally penalize you for going to get your own money. I think it's again, I used to do it when I didn't know any better. As you begin to learn, get more financially literate in what's going on, you start to realize, you know what? I think this is probably one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. I worked for it. It's mine. I chose to put it there, and then I'll be penalized if I go get it. It's crazy to me, but a lot of people do it. In fact, there's more money in qualified plans currently today than the national debt. $36 trillion, I think, is the national debt at the time of this podcast recording. And I believe there's like 44 trillion or something like that in qualified plans. So everybody does it. That's the way that America is run right now. Put your money in these plans where you literally put your own money into the plan and program and saying, I'll lose all access to liquidity, be penalized for early access, just so I can cross my fingers and hope it grows.
Well, that brings us to number 3 here. The problem of the model is the dependence on the market cycle. So we've talked about this a lot, but we're talking about things you cannot control. Yep. The up and down of the market, the timing of when you're going to need money or be pulling things out, how long you'll need money for at the end of your working years. If you decide to stop working for money, then that pool or pile has got your pool within the 44 trillion has got to be there for you, and it's got to last no matter what the market is doing after that, no matter how long you live, no matter what inflation is being impacted to your buying power. So it's a big deal. So let's go through the right game. The right game, how wealth is actually built. Number 1, we're just trickling right back to the last problem we mentioned, is control.
Yep.
Is a bigger deal than rate of return. Control means that you're going to have access. It means the wealthy people prioritize control over their money above chasing highest interest rates because they want to know exactly where it is, how it's working, and how they can use it, access it, maybe to spend, but use it for the next things we're going to tell you without penalties. Like number 2, leverage. Can we use it for that?
Yeah, I think that money should move. Back when we were first learning and getting our financial literacy up, there's a gentleman that taught us a lot about money that used to have a funny quip, I guess. Maybe it's kind of longer than a quip, so quip might not be right. But he used to say, motion is a natural law of God. You remember this?
Yes.
And he'd say, how many of you in the room or listening would eat fish from a stagnant pond? And, nobody
knows.
Put up their hand. You don't need that, right? He said, I'm up here talking. My gums are flapping. There's air running through my lungs. My heart is beating. Motion is a natural law of God. But somehow when you get money, you stop all motion. You stop of the ability to leverage. And you do that by putting it in these plans and programs. All of a sudden, you're going to say, no, I'll stop motion, and we think that it will continue to grow our money. I make the joke sometimes. I don't think you think it's fun. I think you've told me this before, but I think it's funny, right? If you put $200 bills in a shoebox, you don't come back to them in a week, and there's baby $50 bills running around. That's just not how money multiplies. If you stop motion, it doesn't do anything. But if you think about your favorite financial institution, your bank, your credit union, whichever one you like to use, they don't ever stop the motion of money. You drop off your paycheck there, whether you do it physically or the internet does it via direct deposit, and that bank is giving out loans and withdrawals and like crazy. That's all they do all day. The doors are open so you can walk in there and say, I need the new car, I need the new house, I need the new boat, I want to pay off the debt, I want to, whatever it is, they move the money, but somehow we stop. We stop the ability to leverage personally. And that is a humongous lie that we've been told that we've all somehow adopted. And that's something that we're trying to bring awareness to in this episode. The right game, the way that wealth is actually built, is to never stop the money moving, right? You've got to have leverage.
Now, we're going to use a specific tool to be able to leverage our money that we make. And that specific baseline tool, now that you're aware of what's going on, we need some education around whole life insurance. When we're talking about whole life insurance at the Cash Compound and on this podcast, we are talking about utilizing it, leveraging it, and having that control no matter what. It's not subject to market risk, and the money is liquid that we can use inside cash values and borrow against this big pile of money that we've bought and purchased. But we're not going to leave it in there. Yep. We're going to keep moving it around. Now, rule number 3 is protection against losses. This is where the market will get you. Okay, we've already talked about inflation, but of course, you're going to have to pull money at some point. The point of money is to be able to use it for things you actually want.
Yep.
If you could trade something else to get the things that you want, you wouldn't use money. You wouldn't need money. You wouldn't count money. But the point of it is to keep it moving for it to produce you something else that you want. And so you want to protect it from going down or backward. Yeah. That's a big deal. So you want to minimize risk as a wealthy person. You want to grow from a position of safety. And that's why guaranteed growth inside whole life insurance and other great tools, mostly from insurance companies, are where you want to have your baseline more than you want to place money in high-risk investments.
I think a lot of people miss this. It's such a simple concept. Hey, you earned money. You're only 25, 35, 45 once. You do not get the week back that you just worked for that institution, that job, that business that's yours that you're running. You don't get it back. You've earned money this week. Amazing. Keep it. Don't put it in a place where you could lose it. You lose the money. Are you getting the week back, right? It's so simple. If you want to grow, everyone wants to grow their money. We want to multiply it. We want to increase it. That's amazing. But one of the biggest things that you need to fight against is just losing it. And a lot of people put their money that they worked for, right? We were chatting recently, or I was chatting recently with even a family member who placed their money inside a government program. We pulled up that government program, and this year alone, 2025, they lost $16,000 to market risk, up, down, left, right? How many days, how many weeks, how many months does $16,000 represent? And we're okay with it going away because, well, that's how the plan and program works. No, that's one of the biggest things. It's so simple, but we don't want to lose it. We do want to build, but we don't want to lose it. You've got to have a foundation where you're not going to lose it, and then you grow from there.
There you go. Now, the right game number 4, rule number 4 is going to be cash flow is king. Net worth looks good on paper, but paper is not what you spend at the grocery store. Paper is not what brings you wealth. Wealth are the things that you eat, wear, do, places you go, time that you have. Cash flow is what gives you freedom today, not 30 years from now. So let me tell you about a conversation I had on a free cash consultation 2 Saturdays ago. There's a lady who lives in our state. We help people all over the country, but she was in South Carolina in a different part of the state, and I asked her about her mortgage.
Okay.
She has tons of debt because she wanted to be a good mom as a single lady and take her twins on with her in the journey for their college education.
Yep.
Okay, so she signed. She didn't pay yet. Yep. She's paying now. So she's in her mid-50s, and I'll protect the wealthy and not give her any more details. But what she decided to do was pay off her house.
Okay.
So she is $18,000 away from paying off her house. I assume that means she's got, 2-3 more years. I'm not really sure. But cash flow is king. That's the rule that we're trying to help you understand as a wealth builder. So here's what she did not get. She kind of liked her job. It seemed to be going fine. She had no plans to leave this institution. She's about to pay off her house, and I asked her how much her house is worth now, general figures, and she said maybe $300. And I said, okay, so you're going to have an equity value stored up inside that house, no more payments. You'll sleep really nice, of $300,000.
Yep.
Now, what is that going to do for you other than take away the payment and let you sleep nice because you've been looking forward to it? Is it going to bring you any wealth outside of that? She, of course, said no. And I said, well, think about this. What if we could leverage that $300,000 and it could kick off $3,000 a month?
Yep.
Something like that. Now, the reason I used a number like that, it's not because I was telling her and endorsing a specific investment. It was because that would match her income.
Yeah, which is huge.
Yes. If it matched your income, would you still go to work at that place? You'd been a long time.
Right.
You said it's fine. Would you still go if you could make that money without working?
Yep.
And your money did it for you? And she said, oh, no. And I said, well, I think we have something to think about. She had never gone down that mental path before. And that's what was amazing to me when I learned it in my mid-20s. And then I realized, wait, people like our parents and maybe listeners on this podcast consistently play that game. It's like there's a dividing line between people who know that instinctively, it seems.
Yep.
And maybe they're just rich or wealthy or they're good with money. And I'm saying, I don't think that's it. Sometimes people look at the same information and come to a different conclusion. Well, if I could take $300,000 and put it in a place where it kicked off maybe a compounding amount of cash flow, right? Yeah. So I'm just saying 3,000 was the number that we could use for her. It was, she was having paradigm after paradigm shift on the phone. But that money was lazy. That money, well, of course, houses generally appreciate, and we hope hers does in the middle of South Carolina, but there's no definite control. She doesn't have the leverage right now to use it. It was not protected against loss if something happened to her house.
Yeah.
And it wasn't producing her any cash flow. But it's $300,000, probably as much as she's made at that job in the last 7 to 10 years.
Right.
Really interesting.
Before we continue with the episode, let's give a quick shout out to our fan follow of the week. This week, our fan follow is John Reyes. He's over there on YouTube at JB Reyes 241. We're very appreciative that he has subscribed. So, John, if you're out there listening, one, we're going to tag you in the show notes of this episode, and we're interested if you've got thoughts, questions, or concerns. We want to hear them. Not only will we answer them, but we are offering to you and anyone else who's listening a free consultation call, a one-on-one, completely complimentary. Well, we'll walk you through maybe some of the things that you're currently doing or thinking, and maybe some of the new paths or new ways you want to do things or think about the way that your finances work in your personal environment, your family, your business, whatever it might be. So we're very appreciative. Thank you guys so much for following out there on the YouTube world, and thanks for listening.
So here's what we want to get into so you can start playing the right game. And here's what I've started to think about a lot more. I'm watching some TikToks right now, and those TikToks are talking about mindset and psychology shifts. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, the hard part is not actually learning the new stuff. You've learned all the wrong stuff pretty well at this point. The hard part is probably letting go of who you think that you are so you can be the person that you really want to become. So that's a psychology thing. So it's being able to say, up until this point, I have followed a path where I now want to, it's not serving me the way I need it to serve me or the way I want it to serve me. So I'm going to consciously choose to do something else. The problem is you have patterns, you have life habits, you have maybe 1 or 2 pieces or 100 or 200 pieces of paperwork to change around. But if you allow yourself permission to be a new person, to say, I would like to do something else, I can get help. Yep. So here are the things, the 4 steps you want to do. Number 1 is continue your financial education. Now you're aware, but you need to be educated on tools, products, promises, or the lack thereof that the stuff that you've got going on is doing for you. You need to read some books. You need to attend some workshops or have some friends who talk about something other then what's up with Taylor Swift this week as you learn the mechanics of money and how they work. Number 2, you want to think like a banker. Jonah, remind us what a banker does. You mentioned it earlier and how we can think like
banks
that.
Make money by moving it, not by letting it sit. You can set up your personal finances the exact same way. We do that and help people do that all the time using a fundamental book. And again, so back to number 1, financial education. We've read this book. We recommend it to you. It's called Becoming Your Own Banker. You can get it in the show notes of this episode. There is an Amazon link where you can click on. It'll come. What is Amazon next day these days? They say 2 day, but I feel like Amazon.
Well, if you live close to a warehouse, it's same day.
Amazon is quick. You can get that book, and you can learn how to start thinking like a banker. Once you think like a banker, you'll want to do the third thing, which is build your own financial system, build your own banking system, right? So you can use tools recommended in the book. You can call us. We'll walk you through it to let you be in control of your own savings, your growth, your financing or borrowing. No middlemen dictating terms, forcing you into something, forcing you into rate, none of that stuff. And that is so, so important. And then the last thing I think you've talked about a lot in this episode, I'll let you take the fourth one there.
It's measure your cash flow, not just savings. You need to get to a place where maybe every month, maybe every quarter, maybe just in the first year, you want it to happen over the course of 12 months. You're measuring how much money is coming in and where it's coming from.
Yep.
How much of that money is your active efforts? How much of that money are your passive or non-existent efforts? It is on autopilot. Those dollars can come in with a few clicks of a button, with a couple hours of checking on it to make sure they're allocated in the right place. But once your cash flow, dollars that come in passively, are higher than your residual bills and your recurring debts and your Netflix and your food and your insurance budget, well, now you don't have to work as hard.
Yep.
Now you can think, because as you level up, your brain gets more space to be able to think of better ideas. So you've got to get out of the mud to see clearly now. The rain is gone.
There you go.
Key takeaways from this episode is being bad with money is a story you've been told or you've told yourself, or you've said something to the effect of, I'm just not a math person. And it's not always math. Math is not money. Money is not math, even though that they touch each other a lot.
Yeah, I think the system trains you to be a consumer, and we are trying to help you understand that you want to be a controller. You want to be the person in charge here, not be always subject to the rules that someone else made the game for, right? And that is very, very important. That means you can switch lanes, switch games, switch thinking, and you can learn the rules that wealthy people live by, have applied in their own life. You can apply them also. If they can do it, you can also do it. And I'm not just talking about the people that were born into it and we think, oh, we'll never be able to be them. I'm talking about the people who have changed their thinking, and it has changed their finances, change their wallets, change their family trajectory, change their legacy. So if you're listening to this episode, you've got to start right now. Change the way that you think. You can change the way that money lives and how it moves.
Now, you don't have to delay. You can start right now, and you can get to the bottom line. You're not bad with money. You've just been following the set of rules that have not served you, and they've given you instructions to head to a place that's probably not the finish line that you actually want to go to.
Yep. So we think you can start building wealth with confidence. Stop playing the wrong game. Stop losing by default and get over into the right game, the right lane, and start to build with confidence.
You are now tuned to the banking bro. Said we couldn't make it, drink or settle, this the life we chose. Gave a lot of game, we never got a lot of things. Bow your head and say the prayer, we taught you how to be the bank.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, they taught us in school to work hard and punch the clock, trade time for a wage, keep your dreams in a box, save pennies in jars, let the banker decide, but my future felt fragile, no fortress inside. Then I opened my eyes to the flow of my cash. Assets, not hours, can help wealth amass. No longer a laborer lost in the grind, I'm a builder of banks with a wealth-shifting mind. We'll talk soon on one of those cash consultations about your situation.